In this lecture, let's look at 6 different ways to start and end your speech, starting with the letter Q. The first stands for quote. Now this is a very common way of incorporating into your speech a quote. Most people do so in the middle of their speech, but I'm saying you can start or end your speech with a quote. If you're using this, try to stay away from anonymous quotes, and you don't only have to use quotes of famous people. I mean, if you grew up with a certain quote and say, your father, your mother, or uncle, or whoever, family member said that to you, then those quotes are equally acceptable. It's not about who said what, it's more about what the person said and aligning what they said to your talk. That's number 1. The second technique with the letter Q stands for question. You can start off your speech with a question that you pose to your audience. Now, the question can either be rhetoric, where you then answer the question, or you can use a question where you elicit some response from the audience. If you are doing the latter, where you're looking for a response, then I would suggest that you choose a question that has a high probability of a yes answer. Let me give you an example. Say you are speaking to inspire an audience, and right now they're feeling a little bit down, they're a bit confused, say, with where they're heading with their career, and they just don't know what their next step is. Now, even though they're a group of disheartened, demotivated individuals, you can't start off by saying, raise your hand if you are in the audience today and you're feeling a little bit down. You don't know exactly where your next step is in your career. Chances are not many people will raise their hands to that. And the reason is simple, because no one wants to be raising their hands to a negative question. So what you want to do is find a positive way of taking the same information so that you can get as many hand raises as possible. So instead ask, raise your hand if you are looking for a way to become more motivated in your career so that you are clear about your next step. If this is you, raise your hand. So it sounds something like that. Now, I don't know if you noticed a few things there. If you are doing the hand raises, you would ask them to raise their hand at the moment that you want them to raise their hand. So when you said raise your hand, then you raised your hand. You don't start off by saying, raise your hand if you are looking for a way to become more inspired in your career. Because this looks a bit weird when you are raising your hand right from the beginning of your question. So the rule number 1 with questions is to raise your hand when you want your audience to raise theirs. The second is, if you want your audience to raise their hands high, then your hand must be even higher. So if you raise your hands here, your audience's hands will probably be raised there. But if you raise your hands to this height, then your audience will probably do something like this. So the more energy you show to your audience, the more energy they give back to you. That's technique number 2, which is question. Let's look at technique number 3, which is a quantifiable fact. So how do you use this technique? You have some sort of fact on your screen, some sort of statistic that is verifiable, and you start off your speech by saying what this fact is. Again, if you start off with a quantifiable fact, then you can weave your content with that presentation. So it sounds something like, why did I share that fact with you? Because today I'm here to talk to you about, and so you'll get into the content of your presentation. That is number 3. Number 4 is what is known as a quaint definition. So you start off your speech with a definition of something, a concept, and you give out this definition and you say, did you know serendipity means, and you go ahead and you talk about the definition. And then again, once you do that, then you say, why did I share that definition with you? And then you weave into the content of your speech. Number 5 is a letter. You either start or end your speech in this way, and this is where you have something that's verifiable that you can share with your audience. Maybe it's a letter that you receive from a customer, or a client of yours, giving you a testimonial of what it is that you're about to share with the audience. And you could say something like, here's this letter that I received. And on your PowerPoint slide, you have the words that are highlighted, which is what you want to share with your audience. Nice way to either start or end your speech. Number 6 is what is known as a quasi-chiasmus. A quasi-chiasmus is an unexpected reversal of the order of words that become thought-provoking. Prasian Vasilev, the 2013 world champion of public speaking, started off his speech in this way. The steering wheel jerked. I tried to keep the car under control. That night in Chicago, a flat tire changed me. Now, he didn't say, I changed a flat tire. He said, a flat tire changed me. And because of that unusual ordering of the words where we expected something else, but he said it differently, it gets your audience to think, what is that? And so they listen to your interpretation of it. It's a very powerful technique, and again, there's different plays on words that you could use. So there you have it, 6 different ways to start and end your speech with a letter starting with a Q.